going to move forward with.
Thank you. 3 months ago, the president struck a deal with Congress that set spending limits, guardrails on federal spending that were supposed to allow negotiators to reach a deal on full-year government spending. Why does the White House believe that the two sides couldn't reach that deal for full-year funding in the last 3 months, now that the White House is suggesting that a continuing resolution will be needed to keep the government open?
I mean, look, we have said let's not forget this deal that was made, right, in early June was a bipartisan decision, right, bipartisan deal. And we truly believe, as I have said almost every day this week when I've been asked this question, that Congress can avoid a shutdown, right? They need to uphold their part of the deal, right? This is what the country wants to see. They want to see us coming together in a bipartisan way. And so there is no reason why this should occur. There is no reason why Congress cannot do their job, as we've been very clear about this. They should keep their word. They should keep their word and do their job. This is what the American people want to see. We saw that in the midterm election, the results of that. They want to see us coming together and working on these issues in a bipartisan way, which we were able to do, as you just listed. So we must fund vital programs for American people and meet emergency needs. And so that's what we're talking about. That's what the anomalies that I just listed out is about. It's a technical process here. But look, Congress, again, needs to avoid a government shutdown, and they need to do their job.
But what has been the involvement of the White House, the Office of Legislative Affairs, and some of those who are involved in these negotiations more recently to try to work toward that?
Well, I've talked about that the last couple of days. I've talked about, not even the last couple of days, I've talked about this for the last couple of weeks when I've been asked, and I've talked about the engagement, the Hill engagement that this White House has had with the office, the OMB director, Shalonda Young, right? And she has led this process along with the legislative affairs folks. And we have had multiple conversations, multiple calls with congressional members on the Hill. But this does not take away their job and their duty and to keep their word. All we're doing is asking them to keep their word, right? We came to an agreement in a bipartisan way. They should keep their word, and they can avoid Congress, they being Congress, can avoid a government shutdown. And yes, we have been talking to them, not just for what led to the agreement going into June, where we finally had a bipartisan agreement, but also these past several months. And I've been very clear about that right here from this podium, about our engagement with the Hill, which is going to continue.
Good. Karine, I asked the president about President Xi from China potentially attending or not attending. We have reports saying that he's not expected to attend the G20 summit. Does that complicate the plans to try to facilitate a meeting between President Biden and President Xi? Do you now anticipate that kind of a meeting would more likely take place at the APEC meeting in San Francisco? And have you had any communication with the Chinese government about whether he would be attending that meeting?
So as it relates to his attendance, President Xi's attendance to G20, I would leave that to to his spokesperson to answer that question, not for me to answer. Look, the president has said multiple times that he is looking forward to continuing his engagement and conversation with President Xi. I don't have anything to preview as to when that's going to happen. But look, this is, I'll just let the president's word stand for himself. He spoke about it during his press conference at Camp David. You heard him speak of it just moments ago. He's looking forward to having that conversation, continuing that ongoing engagement. As far as President Xi's participation or attendance, that's just really for his government to speak to.
Just following on from that, Secretary Raimondo had a longish trip there. She was in multiple cities and spoke multiple times. I know you were asked about this uninvestable comment, but just looking back, would you assess the outcome of her meetings? She said that she spoke about needing to draw a hard line on some of the issues. I mean, do you feel like these visits by cabinet members have been successful Or, is the U.S. Chinese relationship still in trouble?
So I'll say this, and she's been speaking to this these last couple of days. I think she's been doing interviews. I saw her, I believe, just moments ago on MSNBC doing an interview on this. And so I would certainly, she had the experience, so I would certainly let her speak to her trip. But I'll say this, no president has put the United States, and you've heard us say this many times, in a stronger position to outcompete China than President Biden, and managing, and I think she has said this too in her interviews, managing that intense competition requires intense diplomacy. That's what you've been seeing from this administration. That's what you've been seeing from these events. And we have never viewed these trips as about deliverables or particular policy outcomes. We see this as it being incredibly important to have those in conversations, to make sure we have those diplomatic conversations, and they are going to be intense. And that's okay. That is part of this process. As far as it relates to her trip, I'm going to let the Department of Commerce speak directly to that. She's been very vocal, as I said, has done a couple of interviews. I know she had a media availability, I believe not yesterday, the day before, when she was in China, so certainly would point you to that. But again, this is about intense diplomacy. We understand this. That's what competition requires. That's what it means to manage these types of relationships. We welcome it, and we think it has been important to move forward in that direction.
Pick up on China, Corinne?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Corinne. So still on China, they just published this new map that includes territories of Taiwan, India, Malaysia, Philippines. We know that the president will be in New Delhi and in Hanoi. The vice president will be in Jakarta meeting with ASEAN leaders. What can we expect from them on this issue of territorial disputes, and how forward-leaning would they be?
So a couple things on his trip in Hanoi. Since day one, the administration, we have focused on rebuilding and investing in our allies and partners, right, throughout the world, and especially within the Indo-Pacific. You saw that most recently with the trilateral that he held at Camp David, a historic meeting there. As the United States looks to deepen our ties with the region, Vietnam is going to be a key partner. And so the deliverables that will be announced as part of this visit will reflect both the breadth and also the depth of that relationship. As you know, we try not to get ahead of this president as these trips are upcoming. As it relates to the vice president, as you just mentioned, she's going to be going to Jakarta. Will be a continuation of her work as well. She's been a partner in this when it comes to strengthening our partnership with ASEAN nations on maritime security in the South China Sea. The vice president has spoken extensively throughout the Indo-Pacific about the importance of international rules and norms, and you can expect that conversation and that kind of approach to continue on her trip as well. She has spent significant time working on these issues with leaders from Southeast Asia. You can expect the vice president to discuss the South China Sea as well throughout her meetings in Jakarta. A couple of things: she will reaffirm our support for the freedom of the seas, peaceful resolution of disputes, and adherence of international law, including freedom of navigation. She will advance our work with ASEAN partners to preserve martial law, and she will make clear peace and stability in the South China Sea is vital to the entire world. Again, not going to get ahead of that specific engagement, but it is consistent and it is a continuation of what her work has been, as she's clearly in partnership with this president as we move forward in the Indo-Pacific.
Specifically say whether the president or the vice president would discuss specifically about this new Chinese map?
Look, I'm not going to get ahead of that. I just laid out what we have been working towards, right? Deepening that relationship, which is incredibly vital, that Indo-Pacific relationship. So it's certainly going to be a continuation of that. Those trips are upcoming, and so once we have more to discuss and lay out and read out, we certainly will do that. But look, we look forward to these types of diplomatic conversations, and again, deepening those important, critical relationships that the president has been leading on since the beginning of his administration. Go ahead, Ed.
Should we anticipate an on-camera briefing with Jake or someone about the trip beforehand?
Yes, you can anticipate, as we normally do, Ed. That is something that we do ahead of a trip. So.
As for something completely different, I have a question on immigration.
Okay.
And something that happened here at the White House yesterday, because the president, justifiably, understandably, was focused on natural disasters and talked to the 4 governors of the states affected by the storm. Met with the cabinet on that issue. Also had time for a meeting with Bernie Sanders. But when the governor of New York came by to discuss a very urgent matter in the state of New York and across the country, a lot of big cities, he did not meet with her. Why not?
Well, look, as you just stated, there's a lot going on, and his chief of staff was part of that meeting. I believe Secretary Mayorkas was part of that meeting. Some of his very high-level senior staff participated in the meeting with the governor, which is, as you said, a very important meeting to have. He has a very good relationship with the governor. We've been, every time we're in New York, the president, in practically every time, the president engages with the governors. They have a very good relationship. Look, the president has a lot on his plate. As you said, this is an important issue as well. But when you have the chief of staff, when you have the Secretary of Homeland Security there meeting with the governor, I think that shows how important the president thought this meeting was, to make sure he had his top people speaking with her as well.
Part of why I asked this is because in a recent New York Times interview, the New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, quote, "Immigration is arguably this administration's weakest issue. This is one area where our policy is dictated by politics, arguably more so than any other."
Well, I would agree with her certainly on the last part, where it is dictated by politics. This is a president, and you hear me say this over and over, Ed. The first day of his administration, he put forth a comprehensive immigration piece of legislation. The first piece of legislation in his tenure as president was that. And he took it incredibly seriously and wanted to put forth a path to deal with an issue, a system that has been broken for decades upon decades upon decades. And while he's taking steps on his own, Republicans have made this an incredibly political issue. They have turned this into into political stunts that we have seen over and over and over again. And so the president has asked and has said, hey, let's do this in a bipartisan way. Here's the funding that we would need to actually try to fix what's going on and to work on what's going on on the border. And they refuse. They want to make it, they, meaning Republicans in Congress, want to make it a political issue. Look, the president has done what he can from here, from the federal government, from the White House, to put forth and manage our border in a safe and humane way, to respect the dignity of every human, as he says all the time, and making sure that our communities are safe. And you have seen him do that. But the system is broken. We want to do this in a bipartisan way. Republicans refuse to do that.
To the charge from the Congresswoman that the White House hasn't taken up recommendations from fellow Democrats on how to deal with this issue more through executive action or otherwise because of concerns of how Republicans might react, you would say what?
I would say this. The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has. June saw the single largest month-to-month drop in unlawful border crossing because of the policies this president put in place. We've got a record number of federal agents and officers, more than 24,000, working to secure the border because of the funding this president secured. We brought 21 world leaders on the West Coast, as you all remember, together for the first time to deal with this issue in a regional way, because of the alliances that this president has put forth, and we secured record funding for border security and management. And let's not forget, we've expanded the pathway to citizenship under this president. And mind you, he's been doing this on his own. Does he want to do it in a bipartisan way? Absolutely. That's why he put forth his first piece of legislation to be on immigration, to fix this broken system. We are willing to work with Congress, with Republicans. We need Republicans to do this. We just do. But they keep turning into a political stunt. Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up.
Yeah,
you said
sure.
that this administration has expanded the pathway to citizenship?
The pathway of legal pathway for migrants to enter this country. The legal pathways to migrants coming, yes.
From the parole program.
Right, from the parolee program.
Which don't lead to any sort of permanent legal.
Well, it's a legal. No, you're right. I agree. You're right. It gives you a legal pathway to come in, and that's what I'm talking about, and trying to prevent the unlawful pathways. So just to clear what I was trying to say.
And when the 2-year parole for those folks, whether they be the folks from South and Central America or Afghanistan or Ukraine, when the parole ends, does this president intend to renew the two-year paroles for those, or is he going to send them back?
So that's a very good question. That's why we keep asking for help from Congress to help us fix this broken system. That is why we're just not there yet. That's why we keep asking for help from Congress, from Republicans, to help actually come together in a bipartisan way to fix this issue.
But if they don't,
Like I said, we're going to continue to do what we can, right? This president's going to continue to do what he can to deal with it, to deal with a broken system. So we're taking the steps to do that, and that's where we are today.
In the president's conversation with Senator McConnell, did he bring up at all the White House supplemental funding request?
Look, the president talked about what that he had a conversation with Mitch McConnell. He basically said, you heard him, you were there, I believe, at FEMA, that he's an old friend, and while they may have disagreements, they try to find ways to work together. The president was calling to check in on him to see how he was doing. I don't have anything further than what the president shared with you directly.
Should we expect any more interactions between Biden and Republicans, specifically urging them to pass this package?
So I don't have any direct conversations or direct engagement with the president and Congress, but the president's been very clear. You heard from him again at FEMA. You've heard from him multiple times. You have his OMB director. You have Leg Affairs reaching out, talking, engaging with Congress on a regular level. This is their job. I'm talking about them doing their job and making sure that the
KJP, you don't even do your own job. You shouldn't be worried about other people.
Are supposed to do, make sure that the government works, and key vital pieces of programs continue to get funded. That's their job, pure and simple. Okay.
Thank you, Karim. I have a question on Saudi Arabia. The regime just sentenced to death a man who had been critical of corruption, human rights abuses on social media. Would you have a comment on that? And what role does that play when there is speculation that the president could meet with the Crown Prince at the G20 summit?
So look, we are aware of those new reports. Obviously, human rights remain a pillar of our engagement around the world. We've been very consistent about that, including, of course, with our partners in Saudi Arabia. We don't shy away from raising those concerns, whether with Saudi Arabia or anyone else, and that is not going to change. Anything specifically on this particular new report, I would definitely refer you to the State Department. But again, we're aware of this, but we will never shy away on talking about human rights, regardless of who that leader might be. Okay. I'm trying to go in the back because I know
it's been a while, Korean.
You got to ask the president a question today. Go ahead, Alex.
Korean, how concerned is the White House about a new COVID wave in the fall, and how are you thinking about masking, boosters, and just broadly about the state of the pandemic right now?
So a couple of things. And I spoke to this on Monday. Happy to talk about this now. So nationally, while CDC is reporting an increase in infections, as you all know, and hospitals admissions overall levels remain low, which is important. The U.S. has experienced increases in COVID-19 during the last 3 summers, so it's not surprising that we're seeing this uptick. I'd say it's been a long period of declining rates, and so when updated COVID shots become available in mid-September, we've heard from the FDA and CDC. They announced this last week that there will be new vaccines next. Are we in September? Next month, mid-September, we'll be encouraging all Americans to get updated COVID vaccines, and also let's not forget the RSV. Let's not forget the influenza shots as well. All are very critical and important, so we'll be encouraging Americans to do that. And vaccinations, as we all know, as you've heard us say from here, against COVID-19 remains the safest protection for avoiding hospitalization, long-term health outcomes, and death. And so this is why we're going to encourage Americans to make sure they keep up to date with their vaccines. Look, because of this work that this president has done from the beginning of his administration, making sure there was a comprehensive approach with dealing with this pandemic, with dealing COVID-19, we have tools at our disposal now.
She seems so frazzled.
Whether it's masks, we do have an effective treatments, obviously.
Moving around like a marionette.
disposal, and I think that's incredibly important. And so you'll hear more from FDA and CDC. Any more information about those vaccines, certainly I would refer you to CDC as it relates to masking. No protocol has changed here. That is up to the individual. If an individual wants to wear a mask, they can do that. That is up to them. That's why we made sure we provided these different tools. Again, there'll be more to share in mid-September. All right, guys, thank you so much. See you next week. Have a great weekend.
Run, run, run. So she ain't gonna be here tomorrow. She won't be around for Freedom Friday just as well. That's alright. My apologies, hooligans. My software crashed. My program crashed. And I don't know why that happened. It's a lot of links in the chain between me and you. Something went wrong. But I appreciate all of you guys making your way back. AB fake numbers. Yeah. They're just, selling some fear. Selling some fear. That's all they got. They never have any answers. They just tell you what to be scared of and what to not support. Big scary ultra mega. Tuba shoes. Ain't nobody getting the jab. Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think they're gonna be able to pull it off this season. I just don't think so. It's not gonna work. Alright, hooligans, well, that is all the coffee I had for you guys today. We ended up covering all of the videos prior to KJP stepping on stage, and then we had the mishap and the live dropped, and again, my apologies. Not exactly sure what happened there. It's very frustrating when those things happen. I'm looking at my meters right now. I have the ability to upload at like 12,000 bit rate. I'm running 6,000. Probably wasn't that. It's only using 1% of my CPU to run this whole live because I have a big badass processor. It's only using 70% of my graphics card to run the live. And I got 64 gigs of RAM. So I mean, I'm well above expelling all of my resources here. So I have no idea why the system crashed. It just happened. Klaus Daniels, this is your fault today. Orange Eagle did it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I appreciate all of you guys coming back. As I said, that is all the news I had today. We will be live tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, for some gaming. If you would like to join us for gaming, Starfield comes out tonight, is released to the world for everyone that paid for early access like I did. So we will be one of the few channels showing Starfield tonight for the very first time to the world. If you would like to join us playing the game and forgetting the problems around us for a couple hours, go join us over at Jeff Mac Gaming. You can find it at the bottom of the link tree. If you're a part of Kick or if you're on jeffmaclive.com, you should be able to watch it there in those locations. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance and wrap things up. First, I'm going to drop this link tree, link to all of you guys. Everything is listed on the link tree. Oh yeah. First we need a little screaming goat action there. It's necessary. Oh, I was messing with the mute button. Hopefully you guys heard it. We need doublies. We need doublies. I can still hear it lingering. KJP voice. Either way, here's the Linktree link. Take advantage of it. Scroll down. Check everything out. You are welcome to make donations if you would like to support the live so we can keep doing what we do. You can also support by joining the membership program for whatever platform you hang out on the most. In order to join the membership program over on Rumble, if you're on an Android phone, I guess the app does not show you the subscribe button underneath the chat. But that is the only way to join the membership program over on Rumble. It will say you're joining Locals and all that. Locals is the social media that is owned by Rumble. So when you join the membership program over on Rumble, you will have access to the Locals social media area if you would like to hang out. Check all that stuff out. I send the notifications out when we go live. So if you're a part of Locals, I imagine you're getting these notifications. You'll also have a badge in the chat and access to all the cool emojis we have uploaded. I am going to upload some more. Somebody was requesting we have a throwing shoe emoji. I'm working on that. We will have that added up as well. I'm trying to think. Is there anything I failed to cover? Tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow's Freedom Friday, so we will be live tomorrow 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the next Coffee with Hooligans. But first, I need you hooligans to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, we did the thing. I appreciate all of you hooligans. Appreciate you guys being here. Let's read through chat really quick, and then we are going to wrap this up. I'll see half of you guys tonight for gaming, for early access to Starfield being released to the world for the very first time. And the rest of you guys, I will see you tomorrow for the next Coffee with Hooligans. Let's read through chat really quick. Mr. Beans of Beans, the 21 Goat Screaming Salute. It's awesome. So we need another Screaming Goat t-shirt. We need OG to come back. There was a hooligan, showed up out of nowhere, showed tons of support, hit me up, was like, hey, I want to make you a design. I was like, all right. He made the Screaming Goat design. It's fantastic. And then he just disappeared. And I have no idea what happened to him. Hopefully he's okay. But I wish he'd come back and make us a second design. Geomatics. Every time I hear KJP, I gotta go take a dump. It goes hand in hand. That's normal reaction. It's kind of like, you know, your first sip of coffee, first sip of KJP, you gotta go blow out the rear end. You know, these things happen. I don't know what else to say. I appreciate all of you guys. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you hooligans, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you so much for all your support. I'll see you on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright. That's a wrap.